as I've said in the past, guys, and on the YouTube channel, which you guys can, go through the videos on the YouTube channel and see where I've talked about Assassin's Creed, and I've been pretty overly critical of this franchise at times. But in this first segment of the show, I want to talk about Assassin's Creed 5 or Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, whatever you want to go by at this point, because it hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, and the title, of course, hasn't been confirmed yet either. So I want to talk about, we're just going to go, for the sake of this video, Assassin's Creed 5 and why this game should exist. So let's talk about it. So guys, Assassin's Creed, I've been critical of it. They've kind of had this model and this thought process, it seemed, at least in my eyes, that being Ubisoft, that they want Assassin's Creed to be the Call of Duty of Ubisoft. And obviously, that has translated to not really working out in a number of ways. If we look at the track record and the history of Assassin's Creed up to this point, it just really has not connected well. I mean, I kind of lost interest after Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and we've had a number of games after that as well. So why do I think Assassin's Creed 5, even though it's had this shaky history of having significant peaks and valleys, as does every major AAA franchise, why do I think that Assassin's Creed 5 should exist? Well, I'll tell you why, guys. I feel like between, the Assassin's Creed games, okay, they were making games every year. Now it's been a little while since we had an Assassin's Creed title, and I think that they've had time to kind of look at what they've done right, wrong, and what they can do different moving forward in the Assassin's Creed franchise. I think it's a title, guys, and a franchise that deserves to continue without a doubt. I mean, it's one of those very recognized names in all of gaming, and at some point or another, most people who are big into gaming have come across Assassin's Creed and have certainly played some of the games. I know I certainly have, and it was actually one of my favorite games for a number of years, guys, since the first Assassin's Creed all the way to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And then, obviously, I played some of the other ones. I've played pretty much every single Assassin's Creed game that's come out. Some of them I've played longer than others, and I've noticed a trend that I really haven't liked ever since Assassin's Creed 4, and that is just, it's almost like they got kind of complacent and the story really they had an identity crisis, essentially, with Assassin's Creed. In my opinion, the story just kind of started going in a million different directions, and it just I couldn't really see where Ubisoft was trying to take the story. And we've seen this in as far as sales are concerned, as well as just the sheer amount of players actually playing these games. It has dropped, and it really, over time, it hasn't done very well, probably ever since the fourth game, because Black Flag, a lot of people really liked, and I think it was one of the best. I know a lot of people think the second one was the best, but Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was a lot of fun. And so I think if they get back to the roots, guys, of what this game, what this game really kind of was all about. And I think Assassin's Creed 5, if you're kind of continuing, somewhat around that same storyline as Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, I think they might be on to something. Hopefully, there's a number of reasons and number of things I think need to change, obviously, for Assassin's Creed to be put into the right direction. One of those being, guys, I don't like the concept of having to, while you're getting, diving into the single player story, Ubisoft basically forces you to do side missions in order to continue the main story, and that kind of takes you out of the story, and I just don't like that concept. I don't like the idea of having to be forced to do those side stories. I like doing those on my own, at my own pace. So that'd be kind of number one. But we could go into the story, the lore of Assassin's Creed all day, and we could probably talk about what direction they need to go in. Assassin's Creed 5 is being rumored to be in the Viking era of Norse mythology, and so that is a concept that I think I'd be down with. I think that sounds somewhat like a good place to maybe start to see where they can go with it. There was a time, guys, where I felt, especially in like Odyssey and Origins, there was, during those games, and even some of the other games as well, where I really felt that it didn't feel like you were an assassin. Like, it didn't feel like you were one of these assassins from the Creed, and it just felt that you were just like some other, just some random person out there that, in those times, whether it was the Roman times, the Egyptian times, whatever time period, and it didn't really feel like you were even training to become an assassin. I mean, you just were a person who had some pretty great abilities and such, but it just didn't feel like you were Ezio or you were, some of these other, iconic figures in Assassin's Creed. And I really want us to go back to that feeling of, you're an assassin and of more stealth than action. And that kind of leads me to the second thing, which is that Ubisoft kind of moved away from what made Assassin's Creed so good in a number of ways, but another one would be stealth. Stealth was such a huge part of Assassin's Creed for a number of the years that they were making these games, and then all of a sudden, they kind of moved away from that, and it's more of like this action RPG game, and we know what happens when you try to do these things. Like, I'll give you an example, Dead Space. It's a horror-based shooter that in the third game, they decided to go into this action horror, and it really didn't land well, and we haven't had another Dead Space since Dead Space 3. So just an example, and there's hundreds of different games and franchises that this has happened to, where you have an identity crisis, and that's exactly what's happened with Assassin's Creed. Now, hopefully, with the time, between games here, hopefully they're going to make something pretty special here with Assassin's Creed 5, and I'm hoping they go back to the roots. Why it should exist, because this is a cult classic game at this point, guys. They have built an incredible following around Assassin's Creed. It deserves to continue without a doubt, and I believe that it certainly will. And I think that it's going to live up to, our hype and expectations as far as, obviously we're going to have to wait to see, our first looks at the game and such and see what direction they're going in. But I can tell you guys this, Origins and Odyssey, when I saw the trailers and I saw everything that they were trying to do with those two games in particular, because they were, obviously, recent memory here, right, guys, with those two titles, it just didn't feel like Assassin's Creed at that point. At the end of the day, I said, like I was telling you guys, I keep saying this in this video, that they have an identity crisis at this point. It didn't look or feel like Assassin's Creed. It looked and felt like something different. Now, the mechanics of when you're playing it kind of felt like an Assassin's Creed when you're running and all of those different things, but it just didn't look like an Assassin's Creed title, because everyone knows what Assassin's Creed was and what it is now, and hopefully they kind of can right the ship in the right direction. Let's put it that way. But should Assassin's Creed 5 exist? Because I've gotten the question, do I think that Assassin's Creed should be a franchise that continues? I absolutely think it is, guys. It's a franchise that just kind of lost its way and it needs to kind of come back. I can give you another example like Call of Duty, which is the best-selling game every single year that they have a new game that comes out. It lost its way. Every big franchise has lost its way at some point or another. Call of Duty lost its way when it decided to start using jetpacks and such in 3 titles. Not just one title to just try it out. 3 titles, guys. They had jetpacks, and it split the community in so many different ways, even though it was still the best-selling game each of those years. But they found their way back, moving into World War II after Infinite Warfare and then Black Ops 4 and now with Modern Warfare, and now they are back to continuing that climb. All games, guys, and franchises, the goal is just to continue this incline. But there's going to be peaks as well as valleys, and those valleys sometimes come in these video games at different times throughout the course of their histories, and Assassin's Creed certainly has had its peaks and valleys, like I said. But that doesn't mean, guys, that all it takes is one game to really hurt a franchise, and it takes one game to bring it right back to where it was. And I think Assassin's Creed 5 could very well be that, as long as they take their time and they go back to the roots of what made Assassin's Creed so great in the first place. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 5? What direction do you think they need to go in? Do you guys like the newest editions of Assassin's Creed, or do they need to go back to the older, more, traditional games and what built this franchise from the ground up? Let me know what you guys think, and for more Assassin's Creed 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.